Hello everyone. So today let us discuss about two important legislations enacted during British rule for Indian administration. Clear? These two legislations were Councils Act of 1892 and 1909. Clear? First of all, you may be wondering why have taken these two legislations only to be discussed. Clear? There are many similarities between the two councils act enacted by British in India because both were enacted primarily to reconcile or appease the moderates in Indian national movement. Clear? Therefore, both are seen as interrelated to each other. In fact, many historians and political scientists believe that Indian Council Act of 1909 was just a step forward from Indian Council Act of 1892. Now, we will see all these is considered to be a step forward from the previous one. Clear? In the Indian Council Act of 1892, principle of indirect election was introduced, whereby the major taxpayers and influential sections of India could elect their representatives to the Legislative Council. In the Indian Council Act of 1909, principle of direct election was introduced. Clear? So it was a step forward from indirect election to direct election. Clear? Coming to second thing. Under Indian Council Act of 1892, the members of legislative councils were allowed to ask questions from the members of executive council. Clear? They were not allowed to ask any supplementary questions, even if answer was not satisfactory. Clear? Moving forward a step, in the Indian Council Act of 1909, members of legislative councils were authorized to ask questions along with supplementary questions from the members of executive council. Clear cut a step forward. Clear? Coming to the third point. Clear? In the Indian Council Act of 1892, the members of legislative councils could discuss the different items of the budget, but they could not vote on any item of the budget. Clear? They could give their proposals, but we all know legislative councils were merely advisory bodies. Their advice was not binding for executive council. Clear? Moving forward to Indian Council Act of 1909. Clear? The members of legislative councils could discuss the items of the budget and could even vote on separate items of the budget. It was a step forward from the previous act. Clear? So both were passed to reconcile the moderate leaders, and therefore they were a step ahead from the previous one. But apart from this, some more provisions were made under Indian Council Act of 1909, which was based on Morley-Minto Reforms. Lord Morley being the Secretary of State, Lord Minto being the Viceroy of India. Clear? Under Indian Council Act of 1909, one Indian member was to be nominated in Governor General's Executive Council, which was a major decisive body in India. Clear? The first Indian to be nominated as per this provision was Satyendra Prasad Sinha. Since he was a legal expert, he became the head of the department. Clear? Another provision under Indian Council Act of 1909 was principle of separate electorates for Muslims in India. Clear? Muslims were to be elected from demarcated constituencies where only Muslim candidates could contest and only Muslim voters could vote. Clear? This principle is known as separate electorates, introduced for Muslims under Indian Council Act of 1909 in order to create a religious divide among Muslims and other communities in India. Clear? So these were two other provisions apart from provisions seen as a continuity of Indian Council Act of 1892. Clear? The purpose is to make it easier for you to remember the provisions of this legislation by correlating with different legislation so that you can remember these provisions for long term, because we all know in all competitive examination the provisions of these legislations are asked from the section of modern Indian history. Thank you. All the best.